And we're starting off with WWE, who cut ties with over a dozen superstars last week, mere days after over 100 members of staff were laid off from their Stanford offices. These staff layoffs were part of WWE's efforts to synchronize with UFC as part of TKO Group Holdings, and while these people are out of a job, it's not entirely been made official yet. CT Insider published an article this week discussing the layoffs and revealed that WWE is yet to report these cuts to the Department of Labor. They write, "In many cases, layoffs are reported to the State Department of Labor to comply with the Federal Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. As of Thursday, the Department of Labor website's list of WARN notices submitted this year did not include any sent by WWE. Messages to WWE and Stamford Mayor Caroline Simmons regarding the layoffs were not returned." Unfortunately, this is just another indication that WWE hasn't finished with their releases. It's never good to see anyone lose their jobs, and WWE certainly saw a lot of cuts in recent memory, and we'll have to keep a close eye on this story as more is likely to come out within the coming weeks. One name fans weren't entirely surprised to see go is Matt Riddle, who at one point seemed like a lock to rise up the card. Riddle's momentum, however, was repeatedly stalled due to incidents outside the ring, including being accused of sexual assault by indie worker Candy Cartwright in 2020. Cartwright would later withdraw her litigation against Riddle, but between that, heat with names like Brock Lesnar and Goldberg, and multiple wellness policy violations, Riddle did himself no favors. Earlier this month, Riddle claimed that he'd been sexually assaulted by an employee at JFK Airport in New York City, and it was later reported that police were called due to Riddle making a scene. TMZ has now posted a video from that day showing Riddle visibly drunk and acting in a disorderly fashion as he waited for his flight to Orlando. A witness who spoke to TMZ said Riddle and a friend had an excessive number of drinks at an airport restaurant when their flight was delayed, and Riddle was incredibly obnoxious and extremely loud and rude. In the video, the seemingly intoxicated Riddle grabbed the mic at the gate's front desk and delivered remarks that border on unintelligible at times, and both staff and passengers were not happy. This display would result in Riddle being denied permission aboard his flight, and the police being called, and Riddle would apologize for his behavior and allowed to leave without a police report being filed. Ringside News reports that within WWE, there were a couple of dozen situations that led to Riddle having heat behind the scenes before WWE ultimately decided to cut ties with him. Later on, Riddle made his claim of sexual assault in a now deleted Instagram post, and this situation may leave future promoters hesitant to work with him. When he was a fully fledged heel, MJF would often tease that he'd be leaving AEW to go join WWE when his deal expires in January 2024, and we now have an update from the AEW World Champion. While speaking to wrestle purists, MJF was asked about his future plans and said right now it's coming to terms with a new deal, revealing that he hasn't signed an extension yet. When pressed on the potential that a bidding war could ensue that results in him leaving AEW, MJF said it potentially could happen with a capital P. It's wild to think that the reigning AEW World Champion could possibly be out of the promotion within a matter of months after spending close to a year with the Gold. WWE is said to have its eye on MJF, and Cody Rhodes is confident that MJF could become a big name in WWE, but do you think it'll happen? Let us know in the comments. When Vince McMahon returned to WWE, many felt it was wrong and possibly illegal for the controversial chairman to return, and several lawsuits would be filed. WWE shareholders Carol Casale and Crystal Laval are suing over McMahon's alleged history of paying to cover up sexual harassment accusations, and now TKO has provided an update. In an SEC filing, WWE argued that the filing from the pair was moot, given that McMahon had reimbursed WWE the money and it cost to investigate the matter, a total of $17.4 million. WWE was able to get this lawsuit paired with similar litigation from Dennis Pauken filed in March, and the filing reveals that the Delaware Court of Chancery dismissed the suit with prejudice due to the mootness. Instead of seeking attorney's fees and expenses, McMahon reached a $2 million settlement with plaintiffs' counsel through negotiations, as it'll take more than these lawsuits to force McMahon out of WWE again. At NXT No Mercy, a four-way tag match for the NXT tag team titles took place, but Tony D'Angelo suffered an injury during the showdown. When D'Angelo tried to lift both Angel and Humberto over his head, his knee gave out on him, and after writhing on the mat in agony, he was taken to the back and applied with a knee brace. D'Angelo made his way back out, refusing to back down, and the match broke down into the faces fighting the heels, which gave a cool moment when 4 superplexes were hit at once. This was rewarded with a "This is awesome" chant, and it'd be D'Angelo and Stacks who'd retain the gold, an even more impressive win when you consider the Don's injury. No Mercy saw Trick Williams capture the North American title from Dominik Mysterio, the latter of whom showed up to Bakersfield with a black eye and didn't look 100%. After earning a title shot in 4-way action on NXT, Williams challenged Mysterio with Dragon Lee as the guest referee, someone who's had issues with Dirty Dom. Vic Joseph said that Dominik's eye was the result of his Raw match with Lee, perhaps after taking a running kick to the face during a turnbuckle spot. During a segment on NXT, Dominik blamed Dragon Lee for his eye injury, and that exchange ended with Lee taking out Dom with a right hand. Mysterio and Williams earned vastly different reactions from the crowd, and after Dom kicked things off with a dropkick, the crowd serenaded him with "We want mommy" chants. Rhea Ripley didn't appear, with the fans later challenging "Whoop That Trick" in support of the challenger, who would hold his own in the contest. Things seemed to be over when Trick took a 619, but a super kick by Dominik would accidentally strike Dragon Lee, taking out the referee. When a new official emerged, Williams earned a handful of near falls, but when this ref was taken out, Dominik brought his title in and attempted to use it, only to be countered with a raised knee strike. That would seal Dirty Dom's face as Williams would get the pinfall, with a recovering Lee making the count, ending Mysterio's 74-day reign. A somewhat surprising finish, this could be the case of Mysterio being punished after going off script and striking a referee during this week's Raw, and he'll now have to go back to the Judgment Day without a title. The main event of No Mercy saw Becky Lynch defend her Women's Championship against Tiffany Stratton, but not before the participants in the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament were shown. Another notable name shown was Tegan Nox, who will challenge for the NXT Women's title on tomorrow's Raw, and Lynch would arrive after a video package highlighting her career. Lynch also brought out a cart of weapons, and she and Stratton would fight outside the ring first, and at one point a fan, certainly a plant, would hand Lynch a chain as a weapon. Other notable weapons included a workman's hat, Barbie dolls, a fire extinguisher, and a barbed wire bat, as the champion and challenger fought with reckless abandon to end the show on top. At one point, Lynch caught Stratton with a double underhook suplex onto a pile of chairs before locking in to disarm her, only for Stratton to roll outside and powerbomb Lynch onto the steel steps. Stratton somersaulted onto Lynch on an announce table chair through the barricade. She caught the man with a senton bomb on a table and then again in the ring, but that still wasn't enough to beat Lynch. In the end, it took 2 manhandle slams, including a second onto steel chairs after ducking the prettiest moonsault ever, but Lynch retained. This match had the tall task of following up from Carmelo Hayes versus Ilja Dragunov, but both women more than delivered in a match of pure pillage where both kept the pace moving. It was too soon for Stratton to regain the title, but her efforts at No Mercy proved she can hang with one of WWE's greatest ever female talents, even kicking out of a manhandle slam. WWE's women's division is heating up, and giving the division the main event shows that things are continuing to move forward, as Lynch's efforts to elevate the division are succeeding thus far. NXT No Mercy kicked off with a fun video game-inspired homage to the WWF No Mercy game before Bron Breakker and Baron Corbin fought in the opening contest. Breakker arrived in a wolf hold while Corbin rode in on a motorcycle, and the two brawled into the crowd before the bell, with Breakker brutalizing Corbin in a surprisingly one-sided fight. After Robert Stone distracted Breakker, he'd walk into the end of days, giving Corbin the win in a better-than-expected affair, even if it didn't have a full story. The crowd only really picked up for spots, and were otherwise unsure how to react despite being into the action, indicative of the inconsistent build Bron and Corbin were working around. The interference of Stone shows that the money match is still focused on Von Wagner, and until then, perhaps the best path would be for Corbin and Bron to work together and not against each other. In our NXT Championship match, Ilja Dragunov dominated early on, but once Carmelo Hayes got going, he proved to be nearly impossible to slow down. It took 2 H-bombs and a Super H-bomb to end things, but the match saw a new champion be crowned and Ilja Dragunov standing tall. Post-match, the two hugged in a sign of respect while also selling the physical damage to their bodies, and the mellow Dragunov 2 proved even better than the first. Arguably one of the best matches NXT has ever produced, it was certainly NXT's match of the year so far, with an electricity and physicality that proves why these two are NXT's top stars. The loud crowd also played their role to perfection, and it was clear that no matter who won, both men looked like big money players for their futures on the main roster. As for the result, Dragunov needed this win and could not have gone any further in NXT without fulfilling his destiny, and with that promise fulfilled, he'll continue to prove that he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. NXT No Mercy also saw Butch receive his shot at the NXT Heritage Cup, but was unable to dethrone Noam Dar, who had Meta-4 with him. In the British Round Rules match, Dar won the encounter 2-1, and it'll be interesting to see who will be the one to take the Heritage Cup away from the Scottish-Israeli superstar. So that was NXT No Mercy 2023, which proved to be a massive night for the Gold brand, with title changes and high-octane action, though admittedly with some lull points. Well, what did you think of the show? Did it get you excited for the future of NXT and therefore the main roster? Let us know down in the comments.